there a signal I can give you for jurors dozing off?
I'm not sure what that signal would be, because I'll probably be looking into the audience when we're talking.
1819.
No, you've told me to watch 1819. I assume Mr. Williams, you and Ms. Laurie can also do that.
I'm watching 19 and I've seen where he's close his eyes, but I don't think he's sleeping.
Actually doze off yet? All right.
It's on his head dropping, I think and I keep saying like he messes with the paper.
Before we bring in the group. Miss Roden was one. Pardon me? If you agree on them. Let me do this though. Let me talk to these folks first in case there's something there, so we have one list of for cause people. I've got two people. I think Ms. Reed, which is 410. And 5-2 both wanted to speak to me privately, and I think they both really related to the victim of a crime issue.
410 and 5-2?
I think it's 410 and 5-2. Counsel, you can check your notes, see if I'm accurate. Let's bring in 410 Reed. And candidly, if they want to literally come up here and put the white noise on this question, I'll do that.
Juror 410.
Ms. Reed, you had just indicated, counsel, you may be seated, there was a question that you wanted to respond to kind of semi-privately. Do you actually want to come up and have me put the white noise on, or are you okay?
I would prefer that, sir.
You may come up, ma'am. No, come on up. The lawyers will come up with me, but that's fine. No, you don't speak directly with Ms. Dippolito, but trust me, her lawyers will keep her fully informed.
Well, I just didn't want her to feel slow.
They'll take care of her, ma'am. And 5-2. Ms. Roden, would you like to come forward, and I'll put that white noise on, and I have to call the lawyers forward to the bench also. But if you like, you can come on up here. Don't be nervous. Come on up, and I'll just call the lawyers. Okay, I'm assuming 5-2, we're going to agree to release, is that right?
Yes, sure.
So what I want to do is I want to make a list. Hang on, just Neil, if you come in, we're going to give you a list of people we're going to bring into release. All right, who do you want to call out as folks that you're willing to stipulate to at this time?
Roll number 118.
1-8, is that agreed?
Yes, sure.
That's based on language?
And sleeping.
Yeah, I've made a note of the sleeping also, but the language is what I noticed. Anyone else you want to agree to on the first row?
110.
Rodriguez, do you agree to 110?
Yes. You can just grab a marker.
Okay, so far I've got 1-8, 110. Anyone on the second row you want to agree to?
Yeah. I don't know if you saw it around too, but 1-9 was sound asleep for parts again. I don't know.
Whether he was asleep, he was, he would close his eyes occasionally and then open it back up. I can't say he was actually sleeping. I don't know, what's the state's observation on Hernandez?
He's resting and he folds his arm and rests his eyes.
Yeah, I don't think I can let him go at this point. Okay, right now we'll just leave 1-9, Mr. Hernandez on. I'll keep an eye on him. Anyone on the second row you guys want to agree to?
2-9.
You all agree on 2-9?
Yes, sure.
2-9. Anyone else second row before I move to third? Third row, anyone you guys want to? All right.
One was the woman who was dismissed in the past for language, Maggie's son.
Right, I got a note of that, but I haven't, she's been able to communicate and understand so far. So, I mean, unless you guys want to agree right now, she's going to stay. Anyone else second row before I move to third? Okay. Yeah, please verbalize your response so at least I know agree, disagree. Third row, anyone either side wants to propose?
3-8.
3-8? Agreed. Anyone else, third row, before I move to fourth, based just on agreement?
I mean, I was gonna ask her for 3-7, Ms. Gracian. Clearly she had a model of what she did.
We'd agree.
She couldn't tell us what she did for a living.
Okay, if there's stipulation, then 3-7 will be released on language. Anyone else, third row, either side?
Not in the state room.
Fourth row?
None.
Again, you're not waiving, I'm just looking for agreement, that's all.
And 4A was the circulating one, and we can address that later. That was the one we
Yeah.
had concerns about. I mean, you know our concerns about 4-9, but
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get agreement on those yet, so.
and 4-3 was the hard to believe officer would lie, but nothing the state's ready to agree on that, so we can move on.
Okay, fifth row, anyone on the fifth row?
5-4 is our resident.
Yeah, we got a problem with 5-4. Agreed?
I don't think we have a basis for.
Yeah, he's not a resident, so 5-4. Ms. Roden, 5-2, we've already agreed to, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anyone on the fifth row anymore before I move to six? Sixth row, any agreement?
6-5.
We agree.
Anyone else that, in fact, anyone else, period? 6, 7, or 8? By agreement only at this time.
I'm going to get back to 7A. He's made it clear that he misses 5% of everything he hears, even with his hearing device from the ringing.
We'll make additional inquiry of Mr. Moore, or unless the state's agreeing at this time. Okay, so we will make inquiry if he's been able to hear.
Yeah, with the state stip on 8-1 based on him training law enforcement throughout the country.
Okay. Okay, we don't have a stipulation. Okay, so let me call out the numbers. Check me on these. These are the ones we're going to bring in right now, Neil, and release by agreement. 1-8, 1-10, 2-9, 3-7, 3-8, 5-2, 5-4, 6-5, and 7-7. If you'd bring those folks in, I'll go ahead and let them go. Well, 7-7's already gone, right? Yeah, he's not out there. Ends at 6-5.
Just to bring it to your attention, Judge, 1-2 has also been sleeping. You can keep an eye out for that as well.
It's my third doctor, right?
Not for spirit, he's our
He's a dentist.
Yes.
Please. What's his name? I'm sure. She couldn't sleep last night. Did you get the push out? Oh, you did? Well, you can hurt it pretty quick now. Leslie can get the push out. That's all you, that's it, except asking.
You do not have to sit in your assigned seats, obviously, first row, anywhere you're comfortable. If you have to pick something up, obviously do that. All right, counsel, you may be seated. I think we have everybody in. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to release each of you from jury service in this case, which means you will not have to come back tomorrow. You are complete in terms of your jury service. All you need to do is go to the first floor, turn your juror badges in, indicate to the clerk's office downstairs that you have been released. Please do not discuss anything with the other potential jurors on the way out, but you're discharged at this time with our thanks. As you fill in, there may be a few empty spaces. If you could try to sit in your actual assigned seat, it'll just make it easier for the attorneys and me to get your names right. Yeah. All right, counsel, you may be seated. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I do appreciate your continuing patience. The attorneys will now have an opportunity to ask some more specific questions of you. I will tell you that this is the only opportunity throughout the entire trial process where the attorneys get the opportunity to speak directly with you. If you're selected for jury service in this case, they can make an opening statement, present evidence, make a closing argument. But this is the only chance the lawyers have to speak to you and to get to know you a little bit better. So please pay close attention to the attorney's questions. Obviously, always answer truthfully. If you're asked any question you're not comfortable sharing in the presence of the group, please let the attorney know. We will speak to you, as I mentioned before, semi-privately. We do begin with the state. Mr. Williams, I'm not sure who's doing work. Mr. Williams?
Good afternoon, everybody. All right, if you think that was boring, here it comes. All right, really quick. Before you guys came in, Mrs. Lori looked at me and she said, "Don't screw this up." So she's the boss, I'm her sidekick, so if I mess this up, I'm in big trouble. I don't want to torture you guys, but there's just a couple questions Mrs. Lori asked me to ask a couple of jurors. Mr. Rodriguez, or Mr. Hernandez, what did you do for a living before you retired?
I was working in a hospital.
And what did you do at the hospital?
LPN.
Okay, great. And let's see. Mrs. Chapnick, 4-3. What do you, independent contractor, what did you do? Computer work? And is it programming?
No, it's, I raise for everything.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. And Mrs. Witham, or juror 6-6. Do you know what your son wants to do when he gets out of law school?
He is going to become a lawyer.
I know, what kind?
He's not sure. He's working for a law firm in Fort Lauderdale, and it might be corporate.
Okay, and where's he in law school?
No.
No, okay, great. Thank you very much. All right, that's all I'm gonna torture you guys on. All right, so knowing what and I'm gonna do everything like the judge did, row by row, keep it organized. Knowing what you guys know about the case, who wants to be on the jury in the first row? One. All right, we got Mr. Melcher. Oh, and we got, how about the second row? All right, we got Ms. Hammer, Ms. Parsons. Got Ms. Sharon, Mrs. Suchek. Okay, how about the third row? All right, we've got Mrs. Blank. How about the fourth row? That's some normal people. How about this? Uh-oh, wait, is that Mr. Douglas? Did you raise your hand? Oh, no, he was just saying, yeah, I'm normal. All right, how about the fifth row? Anybody? All right, we got Mr. Shaw. How about, oh, and we have Mrs. Thalat. How do you pronounce your name? Thalat? Thanks, Mrs. Thalat. How about the sixth row? Anybody? All right, we got Miss Keller and Miss Hughes. Did I miss anybody? Okay, oh, wait, I did miss somebody. I missed Miss Kilmer. Miss Hughes. Okay. Oh, and I missed, is it Mrs. Van Dyne?
No, not me.
Oh.
I don't want to be. She doesn't want to be on.
Oh, you don't want to be on the jury. Okay. Yeah, be careful raising your hand. All right, so you don't want to be here. I got to change that one. All right, how about the seventh row? We might as well call you guys our last row, and then we'll say Mr. Martinez.
Is that 12?
What's that?
Is that 12?
Is that 12? We don't go, it's, what's funny is all you people that want to be on the jury, we kick you off because you're weird. We go for the people that don't want to be. You got to think like lawyers, we're the opposite. All right. All right. So nobody in the seventh row? Mr. Martinez? Okay. All right. Knowing what you guys know about the case, who does not want to be on the jury? How about the first row? All right. We got Mrs. Rodriguez, our first normal person. Oh. All right, Mr. Goodwin, you can't do that now. All right, how about the second row? Anybody? Nobody. Oh, Mr. Fawcett. Okay, third row? Miss Boucher. Fourth row? Yeah, Mrs. Nealon. And the fifth row? We have Mrs. Prince. Were you our last juror on the first day? You were on the first, you came in Thursday? Okay, just wanted to make sure I had the right person. Oh, we got Dr. Barsky and Dr. Kobe. Dr. Kobe, how you feeling today? You're better? Okay. Is it the same issue we talked about on Friday with you? And Dr. Barsky, is it the same issue we talked about with you on Friday?
It is.
Okay, or so I guess you had the two. Yep. Okay. How about the 6th row? Who doesn't want to be here? Good. 7th row? Awesome. Oh, we got a hand. Mr. Simoin?
Yes.
Okay. Why not?
It's a situation at home.
It's what at home?
It's a difficult situation at home.
What is it?
Just one car and then it's only me working, so wife not working, so it's crazy.
And when you're here, are you getting paid?
Yeah.
You still get paid while you're here?
Yeah.
Okay. And Mr. Martinez, you're good? All right. So, Mr. Melcher, why would you want to be on the jury?
Well, as far as I don't really know much about it, but it sounds interesting. I don't really do much society. That's all.
Because you're weird.
I don't have a job right now. Sitting at home, so
Okay.
until I find a job.
So you were a cook. Where were you a cook?
Living room. And then been all over.
Oh, someone's been there before. All right. Let's see. All right, Miss Eisenberg, why?
Well, I'm a weirdo, obviously, and I didn't, it sounds like you're saying that I actually kind of like
You like what?
being on here.
Tell me
I enjoyed
why.
it the first time I did it.
And you did a civil case, and you enjoyed that?
I kind of enjoyed it.
All right, you're really weird. Like a double. You get a double. How long was the civil case?
It was high.
Okay, so something similar to this. And you had a good experience? Let's see. All right, Miss Parsons, why?
I like this whole process, hearing a case from the beginning and end and listening to all the evidence. And it's what I can do because I'm not, it's my way to serve the country. And I just like this whole process.
And when was your prior time?
In the, let's see, it was the early 90s. I was like 22, 23.
Okay.
And it was just a one-day trial over $2.50. A bully took money from a boy at a football game, and the father wanted to show his son the process. So,
You guys awarded the whole 250.
yeah. But I like the whole process.
Okay. All right, Ms. Kilmer, why?
I've been on the jury before. I feel that it's not going to be the end, but I also, like the judge said, I think that I'm a fair person.
Only unfair people say that.
Yeah, I know. I just found that out.
How long ago was your civil case?
It was a year and a half ago or so.
And it was here?
It was here, yeah. I think it lasted about a week and a half.
And what was that experience like?
It was a very good experience for me. I've never been in surroundings like this.
Okay. Also, Mrs. Suchik.
I'm fascinated by the whole process.
Okay.
And the timing is also my responsibility to.
Okay. Never served you before. All right, Mrs. Sherrod. You just want to get out of the dental office. Come on. Dr. Spears right here, he's watching you.
I've never been on a criminal case that I think is very interesting and something that I would like to do.
How old was the civil case?
30 years ago.
30 years ago? You remember it? Do you remember what it was over?
It was over two neighbors feuding. One neighbor threw a flower pot in the other neighbor's yard and broke the glass. And this one paid for it, the damage she did.
And I was so excited you want more. Mr. Fawcett, why not?
Selfishly speaking, I really have a lot going on. I just started a business back up against some crashes.
Okay.
Plus, I'd already taken on a full-time job downtown.
Oh, so you had the business prior, and that was your main?
30 years.
Okay.
So it's very seasonal to start off with. This is it.
If you got picked, could you give us your full attention?
That worries me a little bit because right now I'm anxious as a result of where I am is really right now. I have that 6 trucks out there trying to go over there.
So these are employees that you employ that are driving your trucks around? Okay. What do you do besides, like, can your wife help out at all with any of this stuff? She can't. And is there any other employees that you have that you trust, like an assistant manager type person? Mr. Godwin, why don't you want to be here? Yeah. Speak up a little bit, just so she can hear.
The drive, I don't do a lot
South Bay?
yeah,
Okay.
and no paper job, no paper. Me and my daughter also working our own business together.
Okay. Is she running it while you're here?
You know, she's working a couple jobs now too, trying to get credit together.
Is it going to be like a significant financial hardship if you're on the jury, or can you make do if you sit on the jury?
I can make do.
Okay. I think for most people, we know for, I would say probably 95% of you guys, it's a significant hardship to sit on a jury. It's, no one plans for this stuff. It's like you got your jury summons, you're like, they're never going to pick me. Unfortunately, some of you guys are going to get picked. So I'll ask that question a lot from you guys. Mrs. Rodriguez, why not?
Well, the experience that we got, based on the judge said, we can discuss and everything. I have been experienced that before and I'm pressure. And also my job, this is my seasonal time.
Okay.
And I really, it's affecting the level of but for personally, I find it very stressful.
And tell me why you find it stressful.
Well, the things is, for example, Friday I was going to work. I didn't know it's just in the media all over. It's like immediately I walk to the door in the office. Miss Millie, I say, excuse me, I'm doing, and I put myself at the office and I feel like I'm too intense. I even don't left the house over the weekend. I think I'm very stressful.
So you do like me. I hate everybody. I don't talk to anybody. Get away from me, and you're good.
But that's the problem. I'm working in the community. I'm very into people know me. And I feel like a little bit, I don't know if I can give the 100% commitment as I'm supposed to because they movement and businesses. And I don't want to put myself in a situation that I cannot, I don't know if I express myself.
Yeah, you're afraid you're gonna fail.
Well, the thing is, the way the type of job that I do, and people that I know are very active in the community, I really
No, we understand.
don't, when I give my commitment, I give my commitment
Sure.
100%, and I don't want to feel like I cannot.
No, we're all in different positions, so you have a
That's the
different.
reason I don't want to.
Okay, thanks. Let's see, I think, did I cover everybody in the second row? Did I miss anybody? All right. On the third row, I have Ms. Botcher. You don't want to be here, why not? Okay. Yeah, who's running, you guys heard of Oliver's house? Anybody heard of that? No? No. How, you're the only person running it?
Oliver's house is my living room. It's been in existence since 1993, but I don't want to see the drivers. And I manufacture, market, and sell dog foods, which is why no one's heard of it, because I don't ask people to use it. I actually make the product that people use and purchase. And those are my things.
So is it a significant financial hardship for you, or can you do?
No, not really. There's nobody taking care of dogs.
Who, yeah, so are the dogs in cages while you're out
No,
there?
that's not the issue, but which ones is they're big dogs, they're not narrow.
Is there somebody that you could rely on to go check on them?
They're a breed, it's not it's a good hearing, so it's just a mountain dog, it's a large number, aggressive, can be an aggressive dog.
Okay.
So, anyway, that's what
But you could.
I know it's not a child and it's not a number of there.
Well, so some.
So I I'm not saying that I should be suing. I'll do my duty if that's what it is.
Okay.
And I actually find this very fascinating.
Okay.
I also feel, I got one job that's been down for about 6 months and really taking care of her. So I didn't have to be there.
But if we picked you, you could do it.
But if I'm you, I'm you, yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Is that it up for the third row? Miss anybody? Oh, we got Miss Linda. Well, did you want to be here or not want to be here? Not want to be here? Why not? What time do you leave to pick up your daughter? By 6, and where is your daughter? Okay. And if we're breaking at 5:15, you're able to make it, pick her up fine? If you had to, if there was like a traffic jam or something, is there someone you could rely on, a neighbor, another student's parent, and they could help you out? Okay. How about the fourth row? Did we have no? Oh, we did. Mrs. Malin, why not?
I appreciate the process, but I don't like attention, and I think this is going to be a lot of attention.
All right, and I would tell you guys this, the one cool thing about being jurors is people talk. This is the only time you guys really talk back to us. When you go there, do you talk anymore? There's no more talking. You get talked at. You guys control whether somebody talks to you or not. So in here, we talk to you. Out there, it is entirely your decision if you ever talk to anybody. You don't have to say a word to nobody. You can talk to everybody in the world that you want. That is 100% your choice. The only other time that you're going to talk after you get in here is back there on the door with your fellow jurors. That's it. And the rest of it's up to you. So don't worry about that because that's 100% your control. Nobody can bother you unless you want to be bothered. Okay, and then that's your choice. Everybody okay with that? I mean, it is 100% your choice. Okay? Did I miss anybody else in the fourth row? Fifth row? What's it? Let's see. I had first Mr. Shaw. You wanted to be here. Why, Mr. Shaw?
Your Honor said the civic moral responsibility.
How was in your prior service, how long did you serve before they settled?
A couple of days, I think.
Okay. How long ago was that?
30 years.
That was a while ago. Okay, thanks. And Mrs. Talat, you don't want to be here.
No.
Why not?
I'm in studio before, so I don't get paid. I'm going to pay my bills. I'm stopping.
Is your husband working?
He's working, but he can't afford it.
So if you are not working, is it a significant financial hardship for your family? Mrs. Prince.
My name, sir, is Linda Tyler Retrial. I work with people and I go out a certain amount of work myself. And if I'm not there,
Just speak up a little.
okay, and if I'm not there, that nobody comes, somebody else's issue, or I get far behind. That's all.
That's it. Okay. Remember the judge told you, remember what he said the first day you were here?
I noticed that maybe a week or one.
Yeah, and he said two things. One is the amount of time. So basically from today, we're looking at like another 5 days. And then the second thing he said, your hardship is to other people. It's not a hardship.
It's not a hardship.
Okay. How about Dr. Kobe? Same issues we talked about.
Yes.
Has anything gotten worse, changed since we last talked? Okay. And Dr. Barsky, same as we talked about, or has anything changed since we last talked?
Nothing new.
Okay. Ms. Hughes, why do you want to be here? Oh, there you are.
I've never been called for jury duty before. I've been on voter registration for years and years, and I thought I'd never get called, but I think it's the right thing to do, and I think if I can help in the whole process make the right decision, then that's what I want to do.
Okay. And Ms. Keller? Why?
I've never been sick before, but I see it as a really cool learning experience, because it's something that's really interesting, and even getting this far, I learned so much.
All right, what about your finals?
So I've emailed, and they've only recommended or required that I have full documentation of the date that was here.
Okay. Good, thanks. And I think that was it, right? Nobody in seventh row? Awesome. All right, most of you people covered this already, but I want to cover it. I want to go through it really quick. Mrs. Donahue, you've been married 43 years. Dr. Spear, 43. 45. Oh, I can't even read my own writing. So far, you're the winner. Mr. Melcher, never. Mrs. Rodriguez, 38, right?
Yes.
Mr. Goodwin, how long have you been married?
Since 82.
26. 24. 34 years. You have to remember that when you get home. Tell your wife, hey, we've been married 34 years. Miss Eisenberg, never. Mr. Hernandez, how long were you married? 25 years? Yes, I got that. Miss Parsons, how long were you married?
1 year.
1 year? He was that bad? Miss Gilmer, how long?
6.
6 years. Mrs. Sherrod, you were 37, right? Mrs. Suchek, how long?
4.
Miss Muncy, 4 years. Mr. Fossil? So how long for each one?
Maybe 4 first one, 14 second.
Okay, so 4, 15, 10. Mrs. Sun, 44? Almost 44. You're one short, Dr. Spear. All right, Mr. Jones, how long? 40. Oh, so far we got the winner.
No, 20 now.
Oh, 29? Ah, darn it.
Well, I look good for my...
You're not even there. You're just in the middle. You could have got married when you were 6. So. Miss Belinda, how long were you married? All right, Mrs. Di Maria Saborin.
17 years.
Miss Garrett. 32? Awesome. Miss Foster, you were never married? Mrs. Blanc?
It'll be 18 years on the 14th of this month.
Somebody's keeping track. See, that's what the guys don't know. We don't keep track like that. You guys have to tell us. Miss Reed, we ever
I was
married?
married in another life.
Another life?
Yeah. For about 6 years.
6 years? All right.
It was like someone else that was still on it.
All right. Mrs. Malin?
Year and a half.
Oh, newlywed. Let's see. Miss Lopez?
Well, combined, because I came from New York and they do common law marriage, it's 27 and a half years.
27 and a half. Is he down here?
Yes, he is.
He is, okay. Mrs. Shorten?
14, I'm Ruth Garrett, 26. And he's my second.
So was he slow?
He's male.
And how long was the first marriage?
17
years. Thank you. Ms. Patterson? None? Okay. Mr. Douglas, none? Mr. Singh, none? Mrs. Chapman, how long? 32. Did he pass recently?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. Mrs. Funk, how long?
33 and a half.
Gotta throw that hat. You're like a little kid. Huh? Throw the hat. Mr. Lambert, never?
Never married, but been with his same significant other. We've been together like 25 years.
No. She puts up.
We don't have these questions.
That's a keeper. Mr. Shaw, how long?
44.
Ooh, there's still winning.
I got it.
Oh, you got half? So you're 45 and a half? All right. We might have to get down to months. Mrs. Thalat, 16? Mrs. Prince, 44?
24.
44 and a half.
April will be 45.
Mrs. Logan?
5 months.
5 months? You're a real newlywed. Wow. What day was it?
July 2nd.
Oh, nice. Mrs. Van Dyne?
Previous and now?
What's that?
Previous and now?
Yeah.
32.
32. How many now?
27.
27 and then 5. Okay. Mr. Jean? 9 years. Dr. Kobe?
Married 13 years.
Dr. Borski?
It'll be 9 in March.
Mr. Sellers?
Approximately 15 years before now.
Ms. Hughes?
14.
14? Mrs. Blanco?
28.
28. Ms. Orellis, single?
Single like a dog.
All right. You know, they're not worth much. Mrs. Witham?
12.
12, thanks. Miss Graham?
I'm not married. I've been with my
5 for 5. Got it. Mrs. Branson?
7 years.
Mr. Pierce, at all? Always single, all right. Ms. Keller, single? Mr. Trout, how long?
15 and 15.
Time for a new one. Mrs. Grabowski? 34. Mr. Kennedy? Mrs. Sanchez?
13.
Mrs. Miller?
About 5 years.
Speak up a little bit.
First
5?
about 5.
Okay.
And then, second,
2. Okay. Mrs. Dalby?
18 years married now. My first marriage was 12 years.
12. Okay, thanks. Mr. Moore?
8 and 4 and now 15.
Wow.
That works out to be about 27.
Wow. So last one sounds like the good one.
Could be.
Mr. Samoy, how long?
9 and a half.
All right. Mr. Hornsby?
7.
And Mr. Martinez?
First one a couple of months, second one was 9, and the current one is 4. Total 13.
Couple months? That does not sound good.
Yeah.
The second one was how long?
9.
9. And this one's how long?
4 years.
Okay. Registered voter. Just hold your hands up on the first row if you are a registered voter. Second, and remember, I'm going to do everything by rows, guys. Second row, hold your hand up if you're a registered voter. Okay? Third row, registered voter. All right, just Ms. Wingo, you're not? Fourth row, registered voter. So let's see. So, Ms. Chapman, you're not? And Mr. Singh, you're not? Fifth row, who's a registered voter? So Ms. Dalia, you're not? Mrs. Are you registered? Oh, you are. You were hiding your hand. Thanks. How about the sixth row? And Mr. Sellers, you're not?
Not since I moved to Florida.
Okay. Seventh row? Okay. And Ms. Martinez? Who has a concealed weapons permit in the first row? I'm going to do a roll by row. Cheating. All right, so first row. Others here. Nobody else. How about the second row? There's a concealed weapons permit. Ms. Kilmer. See, she looks like one. How about the third row? Nobody. How about the fourth row? All right. Mr. Douglas couldn't wait to put his hand up. And wait, who else was it? Oh yeah, Ms. Lopez, you look like one too. How about the fifth row? Anybody? All right, so we got two. Is it Mrs. Logan?
Yes.
We got Mr. Shaw. How about the sixth row? Our two gun-toted ladies there. Ms. Hughes and Mrs. Blanco? Okay. Seventh row? So we got Mr. Samoy and Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Martin. Yeah, let me do that. All right. Who that doesn't have a concealed weapons permit is either owns a firearm or is very familiar with firearms? You shoot them, you know how to shoot them, you know how they operate. All right, Mr. Melcher? Do you permit? Do it. Absolutely do it. Good thing to do. And Mr. Godwin? You can get your permit? Yeah, get it. Second row, anybody owns firearms, familiar with firearms? Third row? All right, we got Mr. Jones. Anybody else in the? Oh, wait, okay. Mrs. Blanc. She looks like a tough one. How about fourth row? No, it doesn't. You already have your concealed weapons permit, so you're not listening. So I said, who doesn't have a concealed weapons? It doesn't have their concealed weapons permit, and you own or you're very familiar with firearms. You know how to shoot them, and you know how they operate. All right. So Mrs. Malin, Mrs. Shorty. No. Oh. Mr. Patterson. And then Mr. Singh. Anybody else? Oh, Mr. Lindbergh. Barely see your hand. All right. How about the fifth row? Nobody knows anything about guns. Nobody's going to your house when the zombies come. How about the sixth row? All right, so we got Mr. Pierce and Mrs. Branson. No, wait, am I wrong? I got Mrs. Graham. All right, so Mr. Pierce and Mrs. Graham. Miss Graham?
Yes.
Got it. How about the seventh row? So we got Mr. Kennedy and Mr. Hornsby. We know about you, Mr. Martinez. Military service. Who in the first row served in our military, or you had a spouse that served in our military? All right, second row. Let's see what we got. Miss Kilmer, and who was it? And for how? Do you remember how long he was a Marine? Okay. Do you remember when he served? Was it like right out of high school?
Yeah.
Well, thank him for his service. Was it Mrs. Sherrod? You raised your hand? Was it you?
No.
No. Okay. And what branch was you? What branch was he in?
Army.
And did he do it for 4 years or longer?
No, a little longer.
Okay. Anybody else in the second row? Third row? Yeah. This is the Maria Saborin. Who was it? Your husband? And what branch? And how long? 6 years. And Ms. Guerra?
My first husband, I was married for 3 years.
Was he in the service or in?
He was in the service.
And what service, what branch was he in?
The Navy.
And were you, when you were married to him, he was in the Navy?
Yes.
Did you guys travel a lot?
Well, we were stationed in Spain. We didn't know about that.
Was he away from home long?
No, they only go out.
Okay. Anybody else in the third row? Fourth row? Get to Mr. Singh. Go ahead, Mr. Singh. Who was it? You? Awesome. Oh, that's right, Army National Guard. You're still in it. Thanks for your service. Everybody appreciates you. Was it Mrs. Shorty?
Yeah, my first husband was before I met him. He was in the Navy, but I
Navy?
didn't shoot before he was supposed to go to Vietnam.
How long was he in before you did?
You know what, I knew just before I met him. I would say he was, the basic training when was.
Oh, yeah, sure.
On a ship overseas, and I didn't know the ship. I don't know if that's expert, that maybe.
All right, how about fifth row? Anybody? Sixth row? Oh, you got Mr. Shaw. Was it you, Mr. Shaw?
22 years in the reserve.
What reserve branch? Army?
Guard.
Oh, National Guard? Anybody else in the fifth row? Sixth row? Ms. Kelly? Your dad? Oh, okay. Was it, did he do it before you were born?
He did it when my mom got pretty young, so right out of high school.
Okay. And Mr. Pierce?
My dad was 17 when he joined, we put in 4 years.
Okay. Maybe? Anybody else in the seventh row? Sixth row? Seventh row? Okay. All right. Pick on Mrs. Dolby? Nope. Mrs. Miller? Nope. Mrs. Sanchez?
My father served in the Army.
In the Army? And did he do it right out of school, or
Yes.
you know how long he served?
Just a couple of years.
Okay. And let's see, Mr. Moore?
4 years.
Yourself?
Army.
Army? Thanks for your service. And Mr. Hornsby?
Yes, sir.
What, you?
Reserves and National Guard for 10 years.
10 years?
Right out of high school.
Thanks for your service.
My pleasure.
Mr. Martinez? What branch?
Army, infantry.
And how long did you serve?
7 years.
Thanks for your service, Mr. Martinez. All right, how do you guys feel about lawyers?
Go back to the first question. I mean, the last question.
Go pick on the dentist. Yeah, we want to know, man. I want to know. How do you feel about, so Dr. Spear, how do you feel about lawyers?
Neutral.
Neutral? You don't want to know us unless you need a good one. All right. How about Mrs. Donahue? How do you feel?
You have a job to do.
This is, like when you think, if you were sitting at home at your dinner table and something came up about lawyers, would it be a positive conversation or would it be a negative conversation?
You've heard it.
So, Mr. Hernandez, would it be a positive or a negative conversation?
That's fine. No problem.
All right. How many people have heard bad things about lawyers? How many people have heard bad things about lawyers? Like they put them in there. You hear like used car salesmen, lawyers, you know, kind of what they call bottom feeders.
Well, we need it anyway.
What's that? I didn't hear that. I'm slow. Anybody ever had a really bad experience with lawyers? What's that? Who said? The bill. The bill, yeah. That's, no one's ever going to be happy to hear that. All right, so we have a couple. Hold on 1 second. So Mrs. Prince and, is it Miss Orlis?
Yes.
Miss Orlis, what was your bad experience?
One of them days do my service, and I keep calling him and never answer the phone. And he took my money and never served me. So.
That stinks. Did you ever get any satisfaction out of that?
No, I just let it go.
Okay. Well, that leaves a bad taste in your mouth from the board. All right, Mrs. Prince?
Not that I'm putting all lawyers in the same car, but I've had some, I used to work for companies where in the lawyer's opinion, they really have very nasty attitude. Some of them drown the chips on their shoulders.
Kind of like they're better than the other people over there?
If someone's
I'm sorry. Oh, wait. Don't tell me it's... Wait, don't tell me. Is it Mrs. Shorten?
Yeah. I hate to say this, but I'm not fond of New York State attorney.
Who?
New York State attorney.
New York prosecutors. Why not?
I got it probably a project.
Does that translate over to
I
us?
don't think it would. But
Well, and
they didn't leave, they had a big impact on them.
and was it a particular prosecutor or was it the whole office?
It was back in the 80s.
Back in the 80s. Well, obviously, that left a bad experience, because you still remember it. Was that 35 years ago?
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad and pretty big, but I can't go back.
Well, and this is, I come back to this all the time. I ask you guys to do this as citizens of this. This is your town. You are the citizens of this town. And there's a couple things that they're going to ask you, and one is that we follow law, whether we like it or not. And the whole issue is when you come in this courtroom and you are the juror that sits on this jury, you have an obligation to, number one, follow the law, and number two, you base your verdict on what? What evidence that comes from here, right? Not from inside. You bring your common sense, but you don't bring your personal experiences and say, hey, because someone gave me a short shaft one time, I'm going to make these people pay for it. That would be totally inappropriate. So what we're asking you guys to do as the citizens of your community is to be fair. Judge this case based on the evidence presented here and the law that you get from the judge. And that's it. And your common sense, because you don't ever check your common sense at the door. And that's what I want to get. Can you do that?
I think I can, but I felt I had to say it because it's part of my past and deeply ingrained. But I think I can be. I don't think you're that person.
And that's really confident. I think I can. You're like Thomas the Tank Engine. I think I can.
Well, you know when you know.
Yeah, and that's the problem, is do you know?
I'm pretty sure I can.
I'm sure. Not sure are you? Can I bet my life on it?
I don't want you on a picture. Look at
Because she's like the pilot on the plane. We get on the 747, we're going to fly to New York, and she goes, I think I can land you guys safely. We've never done this before. Who's going to feel comfortable flying your plane?
I'm being honest.
Do you think it could affect you being here?
I don't think it
Can you promise me? And I'm asking you straight out. Be an adult about this. Whatever it was, you leave it out in that hallway. And don't bring it in here. Don't bring it in here. You base your verdict on what the witnesses testify to, the evidence you get up here, and the law that the judge gives you. And that's it.
I believe I can do that.
Good. Awesome. All right, now that we know everybody hates lawyers, there's a lot of bad news about, what else do we deal with in here?
Law enforcement.
A lot of, and you know, it's one of those things, I think. Do you think you hear all the positive stories about what law enforcement officers do, or do you think you hear about the negative stories? Do you think we live in a time when negative news sells and positive news is not newsworthy? Does anybody agree with that? The concern that we have as prosecutors is that all the word prejudice means is that you prejudge something. So it's not that I necessarily hate a particular person or anything, but I'm just prejudging something. Hey, I don't like police officers because I got a ticket from this cop once and he was a total jerk to me. He was rude and snotty, and he wrote me 2 tickets and I didn't deserve them. Or if I did deserve them, you know, he was just a jerk. He could have pulled somebody else over and messed up his day. And I don't like cops, and when a cop comes in here, I'm going to have a bad attitude about a police officer testifying. And you prejudge. You haven't given that person the time of day. You know nothing about their life. You know nothing about their experience. You know nothing about the type of person they did, what they did in the investigation. But you come in and it's prejudged. I don't like police. And that's the concern that we have. Does anybody think that you would be a fair juror if you had any remote attitude like that at all? Does anybody think that? Nobody? Good. All right, at least you guys are awake. Or I should have asked it the opposite way. Mrs. Donahue, she's our first juror. If we were like at a concert, she paid $1,000 for her seat. So she's the first juror that gets picked, and we don't get all the way back to Mr. Martinez in the back unless the rest of you stink. So that's kind of the way we work here. So Mrs. Donahue, how do you feel about police officers today?
I think sometimes they're unfair rap, but overall, I like to believe that they're here to help us. That's what I like to do.
Dr. Spear?
If they're out there putting their life on the line like anything else, there's, good apples, bad apples, but I think in general, officers are there to help you.
Mr. Melcher?
I have the most respect for them. They're, like I said, putting their life on the line for us, just bringing them through, very angry.
Mrs. Rodriguez?
agree with the same thing.
Mr. Godwin?
Well, we did good with some bad ones.
Who doesn't agree with that? Oh, wait, who is that? Is that Mr. Hornsby?
No, I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question.
Okay. If you guys had to put a percentage, I'll pick up Mr. Hornsby. If you had to put a percentage on what you think are good police officers versus bad police officers. It's a trick question, but go ahead.
95.5.
95.5. Okay. Who thinks that's a pretty good percentage? Who thinks it's higher? There's way more than 5% that are bad. That are bad. Wait, so Mr. Foss, you think there's a lot more that's bad?
I think, yeah, it's easy to say, it's still cash, right?
Yeah. What would you put it at? 50-50? All right, so before I go any further, who else agrees with that percentage? All right, so Mr. Godwin. Oh, and Miss Reed, married in another life. Anybody else? All right, what different percentage do I have besides 50-50? Anything else? I'm not going to ask you, Mr. Martinez. Mr. Singh? 80-20, and why?
Well,
so 1 in every 5 is bad.
I wouldn't say bad. I would just say uneducated.
Uneducated?
It happens in the military too. Not every soldier can be amazing.
Does experience matter?
Experience does play a huge role.
Does everybody agree that experience matters? That I get out of the academy today, am I going to be the same as an officer who's been doing it 20 years? How fair would it be if I came to your job, and let's see who's been doing something for a long time. Dr. Spear. So Dr. Spear, how long were you a dentist before you retired?
35 years.
So 35 years. So Dr. Spear gets sued by somebody for doing a bad bridge or something. I don't even know what a bridge is, but did a bad bridge. And, or crown. So I think crowns, we all kind of know what a crown is. And he gets sued. How fair is it for me as a juror who's never spent a day in his shoes to stand there and say, you did it wrong. You're a bad doctor. When he's got 35 years of experience doing. So what we also have concern about as jurors is you come in and you get picked for jury duty and you're like, now I'm an expert. Really? You might be an expert in common sense, but do you think is anybody here an expert in criminal law besides maybe Mr. Martinez? Is anybody else here have that kind of say, we know Mr. Douglas has experience in corrections, but does anybody else have that kind of experience where you've lived in the shoes of a police officer? You've gone out there and been subject to the things that they're subject to every day, where you have the right to stand there and say, it's like me standing there and say, Ryan Tannehill, a quarterback for the Dolphins, that was a crappy pass. He sucks as a quarterback. He shouldn't do. I've never had a 350-pound guy trying to rip my face off. So, and I've never, held that football and be able to throw the football at 60 miles an hour at a receiver that's running a route faster than any of us in this room can run. And it's easy to armchair a quarterback, and it's hard to be realistic and treat people fairly. And what we're asking you guys to do as jurors is to be realistic and treat people the way you would want to be treated. Do you guys agree that you would treat people the way you want to be treated, or do you think you should come in, you're now the expert because you made it on the jury? You guys okay with that? Awesome. Has anyone ever had someone, or is anyone, I'm asking you if this has never happened. Has anyone never had somebody lie to their face and you absolutely knew at the time that they were telling you whatever they were telling you was a lie? Has anybody never had it? Never had it happen. So everybody's been lied to their face. I'm trying to make sure you guys are awake again. Mrs. Rodriguez, how'd you deal with it?
Did I?
Yeah.
Well, the statement that you just said.
You and I had something.
The statement that you just say is somebody else.
No, that I told you a lie right to your face. How'd you deal with it?
Oh, it's dependent if I know it's a lie.
Yeah, you know it's a lie. You absolutely know it's a lie. Mr. Melcher was there, he knows it's a lie. Dr. Spear was there. They all know it was a lie, and I lied to your face. How do you deal with it?
It depends on what level. Is it a personal level? So just I deal with a personal level. Is it professional? I need to follow the challenge. The challenge is going to go forward. It depends.
Mr. Belcher, how do you deal with it?
Well, I feel like based on you, that they're relying, I'd probably ask them more questions along the lines,
And then what?
call them out.
You would call him out?
Probably,
Okay.
depending on, especially if they're a friend or, it's like an acquaintance out there.
Mrs. Donahue?
What is it with the issue?
Okay. Mrs. Sun? Mr. Fawcett? Well, something a little more serious. Yeah, look, I stole something from you. Mrs. Lancina? Mrs. Suja? Could you deal with kids? And what I was getting at with her, she deals with kids. Do you guys think it's different dealing with children than it is dealing with adults? Who would say that it's different? Okay. Do you think you have more power over a child than you do another adult? Well, I guess teachers used to have more power over that. But just in general, you guys think that, forget about the teacher scenario, that typically we have more control over, I mean, we're smarter than them, we have more experience, we can outsmart them, hopefully. You know, I'm talking younger kids, I'm not talking the 17-year-old computer whiz who can put you to shame. I'm talking somebody, Mrs. Sherrod, how would you deal with it?
If they're lying to my face and I know for a fact that they're lying, then I'll have to call them out.
You're going to punch them in the neck, right?
Yeah.
Ms. Eisenberg?
I would call it out.
Mr. Hernandez?
Yeah, an issue with me, I don't know.
Ms. Parsons?
It would depend if it was a friend or a coworker. You, a coworker lied to me, I wouldn't call him out. I would just know that it was a lie. But if it was a friend, I would probably ask more why are you telling me this when I know it's untrue? So it depends if it's a friend or a coworker.
Okay. Ms. Gilman?
There's so many variables to the why, I know that they know me well enough.
I'm just talking
I think
in general.
In general, I would try to figure out why they're saying that, why they're,
Ms. Gay?
Same thing. I mean, I think I would like to think that I would call somebody out that's not very confrontational, so I don't think I would rather ask questions to find out and to see if they knew that I'm
Okay. Mrs. Blunt, you going to shoot him?
No, I would say something to them. I would tell them
You can probably.
that's they're not being honest and ask
Kids
them.
didn't get away with anything.
No, I would ask them, why are you being dishonest?
Ms. Fonte? Ms. Garrett?
Again, I don't really know the situation, but overall, I would say I would try to ascertain the facts. So,
Mrs. DeMaria Zaborn?
I'm not confrontational too.
Ms. London?
I'm sorry.
Yes, he does it all. She can't.
Oh, all right, I don't like confrontation either, so I would definitely.
Mr. Jones?
We trust, again, it depends on the situation of the person.
Okay. Mr. Lambert?
Yeah, I'd call,
Who in the fourth row would call him out? Ms. Lopez, you wouldn't?
No, because if they lied the first time, the response may be a lie also. So to me, it's if I know for a fact that you lied, I lost trust in you.
So who believes in that saying, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, or fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me? Who believes in that saying? Who doesn't believe in that saying? When you guys hear the charge solicitation to commit murder, what do you think of? Solicitation? To commit murder. What do you think of, Mr. Hernandez? All right, so, Mr. Douglas, what comes to mind when you hear that charge?
I'm saying offering something, for the person giving me like money,
Okay. Anybody else? Something different?
What did he say?
Solicitation to commit murder.
What was that?
Oh, he said offering somebody something like money to commit murder. Oh, wait, I'm going to pick on you. Hold on.
No, but I think.
Mrs. Shorten.
I think it's firing someone to kill somebody.
Okay. Who else? Anybody? Hold on. Mr. Hornsby.
Are you asking
What does it mean to you? Like when you hear
behind
that?
or the definition?
Yeah, no, when you hear it, what does it mean to you? Like if you had this
There's some anger somewhere.
All right. Let's see. Is it Mrs. Branson?
Yes, I think illegal.
Illegal? Okay.
Illegal.
I hope so. Mr. Douglas?
and also that person too scared to do themselves, so they're trying to get somebody else to do it.
Okay. Did you guys hear that? Anybody else think of anything? I'm just in your. What is it? When you hear the phrase solicitation to commit murder, what comes to mind when you think about it? So, Miss Lopez?
An exchange, an agreement, an exchange for something. Doesn't necessarily have to be money, but it's an agreement with an exchange of something.
Okay. Mr. Hernandez, did you think of something? What?
Low.
Very low. What does that mean?
Yeah. Well, you know, my life is based on the truth. You know, if I feel something, I tell you in your face. Oh, but to get so much low to kill somebody, you know, in that way, it's very unsettling.
What I'm getting at the end, though, is whatever you guys think it is, can you promise you'll set it aside and pay 100% attention to what the instructions say? Because it's going to be a little different than all of you guys think. In fact, if I put all you guys together, you probably wouldn't come up with this instruction or the requirements of it. So the issue is, the law is the law. As everybody promised, you'll follow it even if you don't like what it says. Anybody have an issue with that? Awesome. Who thinks it's important to find out why somebody committed a crime? So motive. So why? So Mr. Douglas, I'm going to pick on Mr. Douglas. Why, Mr. Douglas?
That person might have had a reason to do it. For example, if a husband beating a wife,
Uh-huh.
you know, and I've had cases where I've had friends in a situation. Her husband told her, she told everybody, he would kill her kids.
Okay. Anybody else think motive's important? Let's see. Ms. Eisenberg.
Well, I think you have to know all the contributing factors. I mean, some people, it could have been mental health issues, someone who's a sociopath or versus, you know, whatever it may be, that could have been a contributing factor, or if it was just cold-blooded.
So in the state of Florida, and probably in most states in this country, the state is not required to prove what? Motive. Never required to prove motive. Can you think of why we're not required to prove motive?
It gives some people.
Mr. Gotti?
It gives some people justification of doing what they're going to do.
Not necessarily. But let me ask you this question. Sometimes jurors, we come in here and you try to rationalize somebody's criminal behavior. When's the last time you read a story in the news or in a magazine or something, or watched a crime story on the news or one of those news magazine shows, and you thought to yourself, this horrible crime, and you said, wow, that crime made a lot of sense. That was really logical, that was well thought out, that was rational. That was a good crime. When's the last time anybody ever said that to themselves? When? Or did you say, what the are people thinking? Who said that? Do you understand? We're not required to prove motive because you can't rationalize irrational behavior. We can't climb into somebody's head and tell you why. You may be able to figure it out from someone's actions. You may, but we're not required to prove it. We're required to prove the 2 or 3 elements of the crime. And that's it. And nothing else. We are never required to prove motive. Because then you would be getting into somebody's head, which we can't climb into somebody's head. We can show you someone's actions, but the law says that we prove A, B, and C. If we did, and none of those are motive, could you find the person guilty? Would anybody have a problem sitting on a jury where the state is not required to prove motive, and we won't prove motive? Does anybody have a problem with that? Nobody? I am almost done. Actually, I was supposed to get a stapler to the head at 4:30, so I'm running 10 minutes late. All right, I want to see if you guys can promise to do 3 things. One is, can everybody promise to follow along, whether you like it or not? We all agree? Show me hands. Let's see the hands. Awesome, like we're in school. Number 2, can you guys all promise to base your verdict on the evidence that's presented here? Yeah. I'm gonna get a lawyer too. That's all right. Yeah. Can we all promise to do that? Yes. Awesome. And then number 3, you guys promise to use your common sense. I know that was there. Use your common sense when you're evaluating the witnesses and the evidence. Don't check it at the door when you go back and deliberate. Everybody promise to do that? Awesome. Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Williams. All right, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do is I've got another question I want to ask you before. I don't think it's the defense gets to go next, and I don't think we're going to be able to do too much with it being 20 till 5, so we are going to have to ask you to come back to finish up. I promise you tomorrow, for most of you, this will be the last day you're coming back, so you will not have to come back after tomorrow. But we do have some people that need to go by 5 o'clock. I realize that. That's what time we would tell you you're going to go. There's a couple things I want to do, though, before I let you go, just to use this time efficiently. I want to ask you a question now, which may sound like a question I asked you earlier, and you may get tired of hearing this type of question, but it's important to us. So I want to circle back around to this. At the beginning of this case, we had asked in 2 separate groups whether anyone, prior to coming into court, thought they knew anything about the case, had read or heard or discussed anything about the case. Some of you indicated that you had, and we spoke to you individually about that. I want to make sure I haven't missed anything with respect to that question, so I want to broaden that question a little bit. The rules are going to be the same as were applied before, and that is, if you need to answer this question in the affirmative, yes, that you've heard something, discussed something, overheard, whatever the case may be after I ask the question, we're going to do the same thing we did yesterday. I just want you to raise your hand at this point. You don't have to do anything further but raise your hand. And so let me ask the question first, and then we'll, if there's hands raised, I'll go row by row. I had already asked you whether coming in, when you came into jury service, anyone had listened to you, read any news accounts of the trial, heard anything, thought you knew anything about the case. This question focuses on the day that you got here. Some of you got here on Thursday at first. Some of you got here on Friday as the first day. And my question is, as you're ready to come into this courtroom to begin jury selection, did any of you have discussed with you, overhear any conversations at all relating to this case? That is, before you actually came into the courtroom, you're standing outside in the hallway, you're assembled, you're getting ready, you're waiting impatiently probably for us to bring you into the courtroom. Did any of you discuss, overhear, hear anyone else discussing this case? So let me start in the first row with that question. Did anyone, as you came to the courtroom, ready to come in, as you're assembled, before you actually spoke with me, did anyone overhear anyone talking about the case, speak with anyone about the case, learn anything at all in any way, in any fashion about this case as you were waiting to come in for jury service? Let me start on the first row. Anyone on the first row? Okay. Second row, same question. Before you came in for jury service, whether it was on Thursday or Friday, you're out in the hallway, you're waiting patiently or impatiently to come into the courtroom. Did anyone overhear anyone discussing the case that were in earshot of you? Did anyone discuss the case with you? Did you learn anything about the case from anyone in the hallway?
Over the weekend?
Pardon me?
Over the weekend?
Anytime. Over the weekend, if you thought you'd learned something over the weekend, then I will be speaking to you individually about that. So yes, I had asked that question earlier about when you came back, if anyone, and 3 people told me they had. 3 people, and I'm not going to go into what they told me, but 3 people said over the weekend, I may have heard something, read something, seen something. So I asked that question before, but if for whatever reason you forgot to raise your hand to that question and you need to now, that's fine. So, okay, well, Mr. Fawcett, that's fine. It's the hallway, that's fine. Whatever it is, we'll speak to you about that. But my question right now is, again, now moving, so on the second row, I've got Mr. Fawcett that may need to tell me something additional. I've got Ms. Gay, who's juror 2-7, is that correct? Okay, you don't need to tell me what it is, just tell me that you feel like you may have had someone discuss over here anything in the hallway. Third row, anyone at any time when you first got here or any time subsequent to that, overhear anyone talking about the case, talk about the case yourself, learn anything about the case in any way, any communication that you overheard concerning this case as you were here out in the hallway at any time, including when you first got here before you came in to see me. Fourth row, same question. Anyone in the fourth row? You and I have already spoken. I understand that, ma'am. That's fine. That's for the record. That's Ms. Lopez. Is that correct? Okay. Yes, Ms. Lopez, you and I spoke. Okay. I'm moving to the fifth row. Anyone on the fifth row who believes that they may have discussed, overheard, heard other people discussing this case in the hallway before you came in, or really at any other time. I'm focusing on that time period specifically when you first got here, before you came in to speak to me, before I read to you the statement of the case, before I instructed you not to communicate about the case, over here, listen to anything related to this case. All right, fifth row, anyone additional that has overheard anything in the hallway or anywhere concerning this case? Okay, and that's Dr. Barsky?
Yeah, we spoke.
We already spoke, though, about that, right? Okay, yeah, you were one of the ones that raised your hand over the weekend, and I realize that. So, Dr. Barsky, nothing other than that, is that correct? Okay. All right. I keep forgetting the row I'm on. I think I'm on the sixth row. I'm going to open it up to the floor in a minute, but sixth row. Anyone in the sixth row hear anything related to this case, standing outside, waiting to come in, whether it was when you first came in for jury service before you spoke to me, or at any other time? Anyone overhear anything related to this case? Okay, seventh row. Anyone in the seventh row heard anything at all relating to this case when you're standing out in the hallway when you first got here, waiting to come in, or at any other time out in the hallway? Any discussion, anything at all relating to this case by anyone? Seventh row, we okay? Nobody on the seventh row? Mr. Martinez. Eighth row, no one, you didn't overhear anyone discuss this case before you came in, garner any information concerning this case before you came in? Okay. All right, what I'm going to do, I do want to do one thing before I let you guys go. What I'm going to ask Ms. Gay and Mr. Fawcett, I'd like you to remain behind for just a moment because I want to speak about those things with you. So I'm going to be asking you to stay behind for just a second. Ms. Lopez, I think we've already spoken to you about that. If I need to speak to you any further, we will, but I think we've already spoken to you about that. So I'm not going to ask you to stay. But before I release you, I do want to talk to the attorneys for just one moment. And so if I could ask the attorneys to come up to the bench. Okay, just a couple more things, I promise, and I'm getting you out of here. If two more people could stay behind for just a minute, that would be Ms. Rodriguez on the first row, and on the fifth row, Ms. Thalot, or Thalo, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly, Ms. Thalo, juror 5-3, 3 in on the fifth row. If you could hang around, and so we're going to release everyone. The people I want to hang around for just a minute would be Mr. Fawcett, Ms. Rodriguez, Ms. Gay, and Ms. Thalo. Everyone else, let me give you instruction, okay? At this moment, I do not have someone to cover my morning docket, so I'm going to ask you to be back here at 9:30. Neil, do you want them downstairs?
I think so.
Yeah, it's a large enough group. Sometimes we can bring you upstairs, but I can't. I think what we're going to do is have you assembled downstairs, jury assembly room where you started, and then the deputy will come get you. I'll remind you, we can't bring you up till we have everyone. And so please, everyone, try to be timely. If there's a problem, just try to call my office and let us know that there's a problem, so we know we're not waiting on you. Mr. Rosenfeld, you look like you wanted to say something. Okay, now hang on just 1 minute. Counsel. Mr. Moore, could you also hang around for just a minute? Mr. Moore? Okay. Just for one quick second, we just want to follow up with something on you. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to come back to the jury assembly room at 9:30 tomorrow. We are completing jury selection tomorrow. I know it's taken longer than we initially anticipated. I can't tell you how important the process is. And so I really do appreciate your continuing patience. It's very important. We are trying to move along as quickly as we can, but we've had some things come up which we've had to address, and some things I guess could be anticipated, some could not. So I want you to come back at 9:30 tomorrow. The people I've asked to stay. I'll remind you of the rules. You know them. You cannot communicate with anyone concerning this case, including any discussions amongst yourselves with anyone else, whether verbally, electronically, in writing, any other fashion. You cannot do any research. You cannot listen to or read any news accounts of this trial. With that said, except for those I've asked to stay behind, I'm going to release everyone else at this time. Have a safe drive home and a pleasant evening. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning. All right, counsel, you may be seated. I think there's only a couple things I have to do on a one-on-one basis, so just to kind of speed things along, I know everyone's anxious to get going. What I'm going to do at this time, Ms. Rodriguez and Ms. Thalo, I know I'm mispronouncing your last name, and I really do apologize about that. We're going to excuse each of you from jury service in this case. You will not have to come back. So we're excusing you at this time. All you have to do is actually, Neil, I don't even know where the clerk's office is. We're going to take your juror badges right here because I'm not sure there's anybody to turn them into on the first floor. So Ms. Rodriguez and Ms. Thalo, I'll mispronounce your name for the last time. You're discharged with our thanks. All you have to do is turn your juror badge in. Please don't discuss anything with the other potential jurors on the way out. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. I apologize.
Ms. Rodriguez, you have nothing to apologize for. I mean, as I said, there are no right or wrong answers. We just need to get how you feel. But you are excused. Okay. And Mr. Moore, while they're walking out, I want to make sure I forgot to get you a hearing-assisted device. How have you been doing?
I've been doing fine. Right now, the hearing aid is out completely, and I can hear you from here to here.
Okay, were you able to hear Mr. Williams when he was asking questions? Because Mr. Williams likes to pace. Did you notice that?
I can hear him.
Yeah, Mr. Williams was moving around. So you've been able to hear what's going on so far?
As long as one person is talking into a microphone, and you don't have a whole lot of background chatter going.
Would you like one of those hearing assisted devices for tomorrow?
Excuse me?
Would you like one of those hearing assisted devices for tomorrow?
I think it'll work better than the hearing aid. The hearing aid amplifies everything. If you're chewing gum, it amplifies that.
So you would like to use one of these devices tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay, so please remind me if I forget. And frankly, you and I spoke about this. I offered it to you before, and I had not followed up on it. But am I clear that so far you've been okay hearing everything that's been going on?
Yes.
Okay. You want to try that on, I'll show you how that thing works.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
All right, can you hear me through the device? Yeah, there you go, right? Probably a little louder than you like. Okay, thank you, Mr. Moore. We're going to ask you to be back at 9:30 tomorrow. Okay, hearing?
This will work better than the hearing aid.
Okay, great. We'll have that for you tomorrow, and I'll ask the lawyers to help remind me to get it for you.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Gay, what I'm going to ask you to do, since Mr. Moore's working his way out, I do want to speak with Mr. Fawcett first individually, and then I'm going to speak with you, okay?
You're waiting for me?
Yeah, I'm just waiting to make sure that hallway clears. He gives me the thumbs up. That's fine, Ms. Fawcett. Counsel, you may be seated. You're fine right there. Now, that question that I asked about hearing anything in the hallway, I think I know what you're going to tell me about, but go ahead and maybe not. Did you hear something in the hallway?
No.
No, okay.
I was here Thursday and told not to come in Friday. When I went back to work on Friday, where everybody said, "Where are you? What were you doing?" Well, I mentioned that I was going to in a jury selection for this particular case.
Okay, so all you said was that you're in jury selection for the Dippolito case.
Yeah.
You said nothing further.
And I know nothing about the case, honestly, because I live in my own bubble, really. I got too much going on to kind of, I don't pay much attention to the news. I don't read a newspaper. So what happened was when I said that, somebody just stood up and said, "Well, geez, I thought that case was settled a long time ago and the girl went to prison, she was guilty and all these things." And that's what I heard him saying. I went, "Whoa, I didn't."
Okay.
And so having said
counsel?
that, it ate at me all weekend, so.
All right. What we're going to do, Mr. Fawcett, we're going to release you. That wasn't your fault. That was just something that happened, and it does happen. You did exactly the right thing by disclosing that to us. What I'm going to do at this time is I'm going to discharge you from jury service in this case. Even though it was an inadvertent discussion, it was a discussion. So I'm going to discharge you from jury service in this case. You're not going to have to come back tomorrow. Please do not discuss anything at all related to this case, the communications you've had, or anything else with any of the other potential jurors. Hopefully they're all gone, but you might see them in the parking garage. There's any number of places you could run into them. So please do not discuss anything at all related to the case. We appreciate your disclosure, and you're discharged now with our thanks. You don't have to come back. Just leave that juror badge right on the table there. We'll get it.
How do you get proof that you were here for your employer?
The clerk's office or me. The clerk's office will give you a letter if you ask for him. If you want to call my assistant, I'll be happy to do a personal letter for you if you like. Well, yeah, he's going to have to notify us one way or the other. The thing is, I have to know where to send the letter. Neil will take care of it. Neil, if you talk to Neil, he'll give you a contact number for my office.
He's outside, right?
He should be. And when you call my office, since you're not coming back, just tell us where to mail it, and we'll send the letter, okay? Okay, but you can leave the juror badge right there. In fact, it'll probably come more quickly from me than it will be from the clerk's office. So just call my office, and I'll do it. I could tell you the number, but Neil will probably have a card for you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think Ms. Gay wants to come in and speak to us also.
Juror Andrew.
Ms. Gay, right up to the mic again, if you don't mind. Counsel may be seated. Okay, you raised your hand when I asked about, over here, anyone discuss anything about
Yes.
the case? What do you need to tell me, Ms. Gay?
During lunch, I went back to my office just to let my coworkers know about scheduling and stuff for tomorrow, and I did overhear somebody in the lunchrooms mention that the attorneys were trying to potentially move venue. That's the extent of it. After that, I reminded everybody that not to say anything, but I
Yeah,
I heard
did
that.
they know that they may not have known that you were on?
There were a few people that weren't aware that I was still in this process.
Okay.
But now they do know. But that's all I heard. I just figured I should let you know.
No, absolutely. Other than hearing someone in the lunchroom say there was a possible request for a change of venue, did you hear anyone say anything else related to the case?
No.
Did you discuss it with them in any way, or just remind them at that point, I'm on jury duty, you shouldn't be talking about that case
I
anymore?
reminded them.
Okay. Let me see if the attorneys have any follow-up questions. State? Defense? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Gay. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
Thank you.
Wait till she clears. Okay, Mr. Rosenfeld, you look like you have something you want to say.
Yes, Judge. We're going to renew our motion for a change of venue at this time. I mean, even with Juror 1-4, who we just dismissed, she had stated that people approached her, she works in the community, in referring to her being on jury duty for this case. That goes directly to the United States Supreme Court case, Estes, which states, finally, even if a juror honestly believes he can objectively hear the evidence before trial, he may come to fear returning to his neighbors with anything other than a guilty verdict. And that's our concern here. I mean, you have a juror who was feeling pressure. That was pressure that came from her coworkers approaching her. Who knows what other people are feeling similar pressure. Ms. Gay was approached by coworkers who knew about this case.
Well, no, Ms. Gay wasn't approached. She said she overheard in the lunchroom people talking about change of venue motion. No one approached her.
Sure, but my bigger concern is, people having the same problem as Ms. Rodriguez, and that's what this line of cases discussed in our motion, in Turner, another United States Supreme Court case. I'd say the studies show that when the juror perceives that there is such a strong community reaction in favor of a particular outcome of a trial, he or she is likely to be influenced in reaching a verdict consistent with the perceived community feelings rather than an impartial evaluation of the trial evidence. And you already had one juror today say that they felt pressure, they were approached and felt pressure. You had one person who said she heard discussion before jury selection in the hallway. I'm sure when you ask them, they don't raise their hands, but that woman had no reason to lie. She stated it under oath. Let me take a step back for a minute. We have two attorneys on our jury pool right now. We have Ms. Gay and we have a tax attorney. We're all going to sit here and honestly say that those two attorneys don't know this is the second time Ms. Dippolito is being tried. They're two Palm Beach County attorneys. There's absolutely no way we can kid ourselves and pretend that jurors don't know about the case, don't see retrial in every headline, but we're fooling ourselves. And we're just depriving Ms. Dippolito of all of her constitutional rights, and it's not fair.
Okay, stay.
That's what Mrs. Rodriguez said. Mrs. Rodriguez says that they didn't mention the fact that she was on trial, and it was a personal thing, trying to get away from people, so she just followed the court's orders.
I don't think Ms. Rodriguez said she thought she felt any pressure to reach a verdict one way or the other. I think the pressure Ms. Rodriguez was feeling is she knows that she's been instructed by the court not to discuss this case with anyone. And people approached her, and she's afraid she's going to violate the rules, and she doesn't want the pressure of having to remain silent if anyone does approach her. And she expressed it, and on that basis I let her go.
I think we have the opposite. I think we have a judge that is doing a spectacular job of instructing these jurors. They have been following your every order down to a T. You have told them ad nauseum. I can recite exactly what you're saying, and I'm sure half the jury can recite the exact words you're saying, because you're so incessant on making sure that this is done properly, that it's working to perfection like it should.
Your Honor, and Mr. Williams is right. I mean, you are doing a phenomenal
Hold
job.
on,
That's what
hold
the
on.
case law says. It doesn't matter.
I know, I think that's what you're going to say, Mr. Roseman. I don't think the question is the report card on me. I don't think, I mean, certainly if I was not covering things, that'd be an issue, but I think ultimately the issue does not necessarily come down to whether I've done the best I can to make sure that no one has heard of the case and that it will not influence. I think the argument that you're making, Mr. Rosenfeld, is that despite whatever efforts I might make, it's not going to be sufficient, is I think your position. Is that correct? So whether I'm doing an adequate job or not is probably not the issue, although if I'm doing an inadequate job, then certainly that's another basis. What I want to do is I want to contemplate, I'm not granting your motion at this time, but I want to contemplate a little more what was disclosed by Ms. Lopez and see whether that raises additional concerns for me as to whether or not I'm just a little boy with my finger in the dike just trying to hold back the flood. I don't know. I'm not suggesting that I am, and I'm not suggesting that at this point we do not have the ability to select an impartial jury, but I do want to kind of internalize what she said. I asked that last question at the end of the day because I wanted to know what the response was, to consider that in connection with the arguments you made. Because you also made a motion earlier, independent of your motion to change venue, you made a motion to strike the panel based on what Ms. Lopez said. And so I told you I deferred on that. I want to internalize that a little bit and think about all of the ramifications, the question I asked, the responses we've gotten. So that motion still hasn't been ruled upon. And I guess at this point I'm not granting your motion to change venue, but I'm considering the context of everything in terms of the motion to strike and what we ought to do. I mean, I'm trying to determine whether or not I've sufficiently covered issues with this jury so that I can ensure an impartial jury. That's my job. That's what I'm going to try to do.
We do appreciate that.
I mean, I'm going to do the best I can, and have been trying to do the best I can on that.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say is that I know there was mention in our motion about jurors not being honest in response to questions like you asked for the purpose of getting on these high-profile jury trials. And that's why that's not necessarily sufficient, you responding by asking the panel that question. And I know you're trying to take every step necessary, but the case law says otherwise.
I'm not sure that I'm going to go back and look at I don't think the cases say you have to presume a juror is lying. I think what the cases say is you cannot necessarily rely upon what the jurors say.
I'm not saying presume, I'm saying consider. So just because they're not...
No, I agree with that statement of the law, but you can't take it so far as to say you're supposed to presume that they're not because there's so much publicity. I think what you're supposed to do is to take statements in context with a grain of salt. Understand that they may or may not be honest with you. Try to judge based on the manner in which they respond to questions, the questions that were actually asked, to come to a conclusion as to whether there's a reasonable doubt as to whether or not they can actually be fair and impartial despite what they say. So I agree with that case law. It's never that black and white. You never just say just because they say the magic words, that means they can serve. Even in a normal jury selection, you don't do that. Just because they say something doesn't mean that the court has to accept it. And your position is that, and I think what the case law says, in a high-profile case where there's a lot of coverage, the court should be mindful of that and should be concerned. But I don't think there's a presumption that arises just because there's high publicity that there's a presumption that they're going to lie to the court.
No, I wouldn't say a presumption.
Yeah.
I would say you have to be more mindful of it than you would in a normal case because
I agree with that. I mean, I think you have to look at what they say and you have to evaluate. Are these folks being truthful with me or not? Is there something else going on here? Despite the publicity, are they giving me responses which I can rely upon? I agree with all that. I thought at some point along the line you were suggesting that some sort of presumption arises that they're going to be, because I made the statement you don't presume they're lying to you. I don't think you presume they're lying to you either. I think you consider everything and determine whether or not you can rely upon their statements given the totality of what's going on. I think that's the correct statement.
I just find it concerning that more so in this case than any other trial I've sat on, and I've probably tried 50 jury trials, is how many people responded to Mr. Williams' question about who wants to be here with, oh, I find this interesting. I mean, and I think that reflects the high-profile nature of the case, and, it's part
I don't know. I've had that on murder. I mean, yeah, there is a natural tendency sometimes if they think it's a significant case. People don't like their time wasted. And so when you come in and it's a third-degree felony and you're arguing about, someone made an example of I don't know how that case ever got to trial, $2 or something like that, people don't think those kind of cases are important. They don't want to waste their time on it. I had a lot in civil, believe me. They didn't think a fender bender was important, and they didn't want to be wasting their time on a fender bender. And so people will say in more significant cases, high profile or otherwise, that they find it more worth their time. Now, as we know, each case is worth their time, but there is that natural tendency. And I'm not suggesting that what you say can't have a grain of truth to it. I mean, there are people that will want to sit on a case simply because it's high profile. I think we saw that in the first Goodman trial probably, and it does come up. I'm not suggesting it doesn't. Okay, Mr. Claypool, you look like you had something you want to chime in on. It's okay. All right.
Blair, I just wanted to make it clear, I'm the one that made that comment earlier, and I was citing the M-U-M-I-N versus Virginia case, and it does say that...
You have to presume they're lying to you?
It says, recognizing that when pretrial publicity is pervasive within a community, a juror's claims that they can be impartial should not be believed, and voir dire is an inadequate curative. So the case does stand for I would take the position that it pretty much does take the position that it is presumed.
I think I've seen a ton of other cases that say otherwise, but that's...
And just one other comment I do want to make for the record is the burden that we've got through on this motion is not that there's an absolute basis for a change of venue. If there's a reasonable basis shown for a change of venue, the motion properly made should be granted. So I think we've met that burden of a reasonable basis. Just wanted to clarify this.
Oh, I understand. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. These are not easy issues I've got to deal with. Okay. Anything, I hesitate to ask anything further at this point? Okay. I have my own morning docket tomorrow. I want everyone here ready to go at 9:30. I just can't guarantee I can get you in. You know how it goes, Mr. Roosevelt.
What time did you?
I want everyone here at 9:30 ready to go, but I have to do my own morning docket tomorrow morning, so I'm going to have to clear in here. I'm doing my morning docket in here, and then the trial will commence as soon as I get done with the morning docket. Okay, well, if you got a case at 8:30, it's here.
I guess assuming you don't grant the motion for change of venue and get through voir dire tomorrow and we do get a jury, when will we begin opening? I mean, we haven't heard back on most of the pretrial